Welcome to Feminine Power Time. Turn off the chatter and tune in to what matters. This is Christine O'Reilly, your host, and I welcome you to this place where we are reimagining the way we and the world work from the inside out by bringing together wisdom, leadership, and well-being, and looking through the eye of the feminine, where feminine power leads. Now, if you are new here, you may think, what is this about, the feminine? If you have been around a while, you know exactly what I mean, but let me just say it this way. The feminine isn't about man, it's not about women, it's not gender-based. The feminine is an energy that is within us, that's in this planet, and it's been kind of poo-pooed and woo-wooed and shoo-shooed and stomped over and kind of relegated to the realm of soft. And the feminine is, well, she can be soft. Well, it can be soft. It is so powerful. And the series that we've been doing on the feminine leadership archetypes, and we are at the 6th archetype today that we're gonna introduce here, and I'll tell you what archetype it is in a moment, is a series of 8 what I called feminine leadership archetypes that are archetypes that it looks like when we're embodying our feminine energy, and not just kind of the mainstream thought of hard skills and soft skills and like, oh my God, a yawn, boring. But also that is not sufficient for the times that we live in right now. I decided to do this series because we're in unprecedented times where there is a lot of archetypal energy that is flying around, moving around, pushing things, coming back around. And if we don't have our wise being eyes open to understand what archetypal energy is, but also know how to embody it ourselves and value it ourselves, we will just either keep recapitulating maybe a little better the world that we've been living in, or worse, we'll just get run over by the trains that are, have left the station and are moving forward in ways that really don't support humanity and this planet. And the thing is, you and I, dear one, we have a lot of power, but we have to understand our presence first in order to really wield that power in a full way. So here's what we're going to do today. I was going to say a little bit more about the archetype just to bring us back around. If you haven't listened to the series, I do encourage you could totally tune into this and go back and start with the first episode and kind of work your way through or pick ones that really call to you. There are 8 archetypes in total. And if you think about the archetype model, you can kind of look at it like a compass. It has all 8 directions inside of it. So north, south, west, east, and then the ones in between those. And the archetype that we're going to introduce and bring in here in just a bit is called the catalyst. And the catalyst is a close friend of the advocate, who is the archetype that we invited in to not just our conversation as we talk about, not just talk about at a mental level, but like really open ourselves up, body, mind, heart, and spirit, to understand this archetypal energy that's within us already. It opens up places and spaces within us that we maybe had a sense of, but we didn't have language for. That's a big piece of what we've been doing here at Feminine Power Time now for over a decade. And I hope those of you that have been around for a while know this. And for those of you that are newer, welcome. That I'm not here to dump a bunch of information on you. This is not something just to take in through your mental mind. I'm actually inviting you into an exploration and a conversation where we illuminate, we educate, we liberate, and then we elevate. In this particular series this year on the archetypes, here's kind of just a snippet of why. So the archetypes are a reflection of what happens when we bring the feminine presence into leadership and we value it. These archetypes can help us stay clear and centered and strong in playing our part, and also empowered to wisely create realities that are rooted in wholeness, sustainability, freedom, harmony, love, connection, and possibility, even if the mainstream world is reflecting a different reality, which currently it is. If any of you, I don't know if any of you feel this way, but I feel like I'm a little bit in between Harry Potter and Star Wars. Somewhere in that reality is what I'm watching going on all around me. And I'm like, wow, this is, if you look at it archetypal, and those movies are archetypal, you'll see things differently. And instead of feeling like a victim or becoming overwhelmed, it kind of what it does is it raises us up out of the fray, out of the drama, out of, sometimes it's called the dreaded drama triangle. Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit later, where we feel like we don't have agency or the ability to make different choices, or it's, we feel that disempowerment. But these archetypes, which I developed in 2018 and have been studying for many, many years before that, but kind of my gift is taking deep esoteric wisdom and joining it with my MBA self and my social impact self and just being a human on the planet self and bringing it into ways that we can use it. And the feminine leadership archetypes, what they do is they describe feminine presence and power. And again, it's not gender specific. Think of it more like yin yang, or solar and lunar, or in Jungian psychology, you talk about anima and animus, or we can think of it as like water and fire, or earth and wind, elementally speaking. So this is just inherent in a lot of different ways. And people get all weirded out when I use the word feminine and masculine because they think we're just talking about men and women. Or when I use the word feminine, people have thought either you're talking about feminine hygiene products or you're talking about some woman who wears frilly things that are pink. And by the way, the feminine color is blue, like water, not pink. Color has been co-opted. So we got to keep it light here a little bit too. But here's what these archetypes, what I noticed as I was working with leaders from all different places, of all different ages, and also myself, what I realized is that this feminine presence and power is often not valued and compensated or even acknowledged within the systems that we work and live and operate in. Although it's often the energy that often holds everything together. And oftentimes it's the invisible things that people rely on us for. It's what creates the environments and the cultures that foster people's growth and creativity and connectivity. And these archetypes, what they do is they give us language and symbol and metaphor and image and a sense of the energy that's within you and I that we can access and apply. And when we take that with more of the traditional intellectual masculine yang energy, we can then create and model systems that actually reflect balanced leadership and bring wisdom and connection to power, where the head and the heart and the body are working together. And so that's what we're here doing today in this series. But specifically with the catalyst, before I bring her in, I want to say a couple things about her. What we're going to do today is I'm going to share a couple things about the catalyst, why it matters now. Then I'll bring her in and I'll share the catalyst transmission that are her words and have you listen to that. And then we're going to explore how you can work with this energy first in your own self-leadership and how you are catalyzing yourself and working and living with catalyst energy. Then we'll move into how you can use this in your relationships. So if you're in the realm of leading people or also leading a person or influencing a person, or a relationship, both professional and personal. So kind of catalyzing each other, which is what we do. And sometimes some of us do this for a living. And then catalyzing the system. So we're always working here in Feminine Power Time and in reimagining the way we in the world work on those three levels. If you oftentimes you'll look at one of the logos I use, it's a circle with a triangle in it. It usually has a dot on it in the center of it. And the triangle means a lot of different things that I've talked about in other different podcasts I'm not going to go into today, other than I will say, in short, it is a symbol for when wisdom reconnects to power, or power reconnects to wisdom and focuses on love and all of the trueness of that, call it compassion, call it love, then the world will know peace. And we will know peace. It's very similar to Jimi Hendrix's quote of, when the love of power becomes the power of love, the world will know peace. And it's how that wisdom connecting to power, focused on love, is how we elevate out of this banana 3D world that has been based in this duality reality and greed and scarcity and victim mentality for, I don't know how far you want to go back, a long, long time, at least 11,500 years, depending on who you're asking, or maybe more like 5,000 years in its current iteration, more than we're going to talk about today. But this energy of catalyze is so powerful. I want you to think of the energy of like the wolf and the snake, and not snake like a snaky person, but like like the snake that has the ability to shed her skin. The wolf who only is the only person that hunts the wolf is the human. The humans almost killed the wolf because it's a symbol of freedom and sovereignty, and this raw primal power is very related to the creatrix. The creatrix and the catalyst have a lot. They have some similar energy going on, but the catalyst also has some similar energy to the advocate, in that the advocate, as we talked about, she has that sword of loving truth, which she is not allowed to use unless we are grounded in our presence. The catalyst carries a lightning bolt. And that lightning bolt is something that we can use to catalyze situations with other people, to catalyze ourselves, to catalyze systems. But we also have to be grounded and rooted in ourselves. But even more than that, we have to be truly open-hearted. And that's why in the model of the feminine leadership archetypes, if you just close your eyes for a moment as we start to slow down, just envision this compass that I'm sharing with you of the archetypes. And the catalyst is in the west, across from the advocate, who's in the east. And in the center of this compass, of this model, is the symbol of the triangle and the circle, which is the symbol of liberation and elevation, which is what we're here for. So I want you to go ahead and just take a deep breath as we start to slow it down here. And as we go through this conversation today and this exploration, where I'm really inviting you to add this as like a lens that you can see through, just taking a moment to sense into where you might personally be experiencing a catalyst already. And catalyst, just think of it as it's change, it's shift, it's changing form. It's a spark or something that comes into a system, our system, a family system, something system, the bigger system that can create chaos for sure, and it can create great harm if one is not using it with that open heart and understanding, and really bringing in the energy of both the loving truth but also a deep compassion. So catalyst without compassion is kind of what we're seeing in the world right now. You have a lot of people running around throwing lightning bolts wherever they want to, burning shit up and burning shit down without either consciousness or care for the harm that it does and the fire that it causes. It's a very heat energy. But the catalyst and the energy of it doesn't have to be the kind of heat that burns everything to the ground. There's also a way to use fire. Just think of, we have campfires. There's a glow to it. There's a warmth to it. Sometimes with lightning, it just strikes once and then the catalyst is done. It doesn't go on and on and on. So a lot of the stress that so many of us are feeling is because it never stops. So it's kind of like living in a reality in which you never know where the lightning bolt's going to come from, and they keep coming and then they keep streaming through little notifications on our computers. And, and it's just like lightning bolt over and over and over again, which is why it's so important to really be intentional about what you let in and how you let it in. And so what really matters about the catalyst as we go through this today is that we get to embrace our power as conscious catalyzers. Just take that in for a moment as we're going to slow it down another notch. The catalyst is very ready to come in. The conscious catalyzers, what that means is that we embrace that we have the ability to catalyze for ourselves, for others, and for the systems that we live and swim in. But we do it consciously. And that catalysts happen, and we are always at choice about how we relate to them. So we can relate to a catalyst as it's happening to me, or we can relate to a catalyst, which can oftentimes make us feel like we are a victim, and sometimes there is trauma associated or something really hard with it. So I'm not discounting that. Something could be a paradox. It can be very challenging, and yet also we come back around to the place again and again of what true empowerment is, as I'm at choice of how I move through this catalyst. So presencing what catalyst may be happening for you, and a catalyst doesn't have to be bad or good. It can be enjoyable, delightful, welcomed. We want this catalyst. Or it could be, oh man, like I really don't want to have to deal with this, to like, shit, this has got me down to my knees right now, and this is too much. So there's a wide spectrum of how we feel about the catalysts. And instead of ignoring them or only embracing the good ones, embracing that we kind of have to embrace it all. This is more than we're going to go into today, but this is part of like truly being able to weather these kinds of realities that we're in right now requires us to be able to dance in paradox, where we can have grief and joy in the same moment. There's so many paradoxes. We'll talk more about that in times to come, but that's what we're saying with catalyst. And catalyst, there might be something that's happening right now, or maybe you can feel it coming. And think about that in relationships or job or money or home or whatever. Or also you could think about, is there a place in a relationship that there's a catalyst that wants to happen, but it's not happening, and you can tell if it doesn't happen, it might go sideways. Or maybe you're in a catalytic place that feels uncomfortable or hard or sad. And then what are you noticing system-wise, catalyzing around you? Catalyzing in ways that feel good and empowering and life-sustaining. Find at least one. And also things that are catalyzing system-wise that bring out that sacred rage and holy grief in you, or your feelings of injustice or whatever it might be. So I'm just calling all of these forth as we invite in the catalyst to support you to work with whatever catalysts are going to be showing up or already in your life, to support you in the way you lead and influence people, and also in your own personal relationships. And then lastly, as a culture shaper in the ecosystems you live, lead, and love within. All right, my dears. So that is the warm-up. Table is set, and here comes the catalyst. So I invite you to either close your eyes and listen to this, or just kind of tune out the outside. And before I read her transmission, I'm just going to share the image a little bit. When I use these with my leadership coaching clients, or I use them in my workshops or my retreats, we have the images up, but we are audio, so I can't actually show it to you. But imagine this in your mind's eye, if you will. the catalyst is she's like hovering in the air. So yes, she can fly. She's hovering in the air, and she has this really awesome tight skin suit on that looks a little bit like armor. And in one hand, she's holding a purple lightning bolt, and it has both lavender and deep purple with some white running through it. And the other one, she's holding a shield, and behind her is fire, like phoenix fire. And she has these most awesome boots that are also part of her kind of like warrior-looking costume. And then she has this mask on that makes her look like a phoenix. I mean, she really is the phoenix energy. But the interesting thing about this image is that the shield is not in front of her. The shield, if you were to put this in your own hands, your shield, put your hands out somatically here with me, is in your left hand. And take that shield, and you, instead of having it in front of you, just move it out so that it's totally opening up your heart. And then that lightning bolt is in the right hand, and it's not hot like it's burning your hand. There's like actually a coolness to it, while there's also a warmth to it. And your heart is open. And on your heart, actually on her breastplate, is this beautiful burgundy round stone that looks like a garnet, which happens to be the stone of the archetype of the Great Mother. And she's looking with fiercity about, very intentionally. And then that fire is there behind her, but she's not blasting hot yellow fire out like a fire hose. She's looking and observing before she decides for that lightning bolt to be released. And she's also never, ever going to throw that lightning bolt at another person. She would throw it onto the ground to illuminate and catalyze, but never at another person. And this is the difference when we start teaching the feminine and we start learning the feminine and bring it into relationship with the masculine around things like anger and frustration and using our power. Because in the feminine teachings, in the feminine mystery teachings, you learn how to express your anger in a way that is never directed at somebody. It'll fill a room, it'll move through you, people will listen and they will know, and you won't have to scream. You won't have to scream. And when you learn how to direct that energy, whoa. I mean, when I was learning this decades ago, from both a male teacher and a female teacher, one of the things that they taught me was how if you ever are walking and a dog comes at you, you stop, you plant, you look at that dog, and you direct that lightning bolt and that force of like, no. And that's happened to me before, and I was like, wow, that shimmer works. Like that's no joke, right? So we're this very powerful energy that's to be respected, and that as a heart warrior, a sacred warrior, it's part of what we see in the world is a lack of honor and a lack of respect, and therefore anyone can just shoot their lightning bolts wherever they want. And that includes people who aren't in positions of power as well, that feel powerless. Social media, happens all of the time. So just knowing that you have these lightning bolts, and again, as we share her words here, just know that this isn't about perfection. I wish I could say that I've never thrown a lightning bolt at Noah. I've never thrown it at him, but I've thrown it really close. I've thrown it very close to his shoes that maybe singed his gym shoes a little bit. And the catalyst is one of my main archetypes. As we share these archetypes, just notice there are going to be ones that are like, oh my God, like I was born like that. I was born this way. And advocate and catalyst are two of my primary ones. And for others, when I've done different leadership trainings and I bring out the swords and we talk about lightning bolts, there are people who are like, I don't want that. Like, I do not want to pick that up. I'm afraid I'm going to hurt somebody. And I'm like, well, then let's teach you how to direct your power and your energy so that you don't, but that you're also, then it's not coming out sideways, which happens a lot with people who are uncomfortable holding a sword metaphorically or a lightning bolt metaphorically. It still comes out. It just comes out passive aggressively and sneaky, which is, I want to say better or worse, but it is no better than striking someone, face to face directly. They're both no bueno. So here, my friends, is the catalyst without further ado. Catalyst. I am here to shake things up. Rattle you out of your comfort zone. Waken you from the ways in which you still sleep. My lightning bolt of truth, which I am adept at throwing into the field, rarely feels comfortable. But because it is grounded in love, it never wounds or scars. Its heat and light invites you to shed what is no longer needed and no longer serves. Like soul fire, the heat of my presence invites you to liberate and unleash your power and essence, to step forward from what binds and distorts, to choose the freedom to embody and express a more full, true self, for the good of yourself, all beings, and the planet. So I'm going to read that one more time, and this time listen to it and see what goes zing, zing, ping, ping. There's a sentence, a word, a phrase. And then if you have something to write that down on, I'm going to ask you to do that. And then we'll move into the next part here, looking at the 3 different areas. All right. I am here to shake things up, rattle you out of your comfort zone, waken you from the ways in which you still sleep. My lightning bolt of truth, which I am adept at throwing into the field, rarely feels comfortable. But because it is grounded in love, it never wounds or scars. Its heat and light invites you to shed what is no longer needed and no longer serves. Like soul fire, the heat of my presence invites you to liberate and unleash your power and essence, to step forward from what binds and distorts, to choose the freedom to embody and express a more full, true self, for the good of yourself, all beings, and the planet. So notice what phrase or sentence stood out for you there. It's interesting for me, I've read this a gazillion times, and for me it was the heat of my presence invites you. So I'm going to take that and work with that. And I know this. Like I was actually talking to a collaborator of mine we're working together for this year's wisdom quest that we do for leaders who are women that are visioning and also kind of charting the course of their next phase of their life and career and leadership. And I said, I'm going to wait to do this podcast with the catalyst because I'm afraid I'll show up for our call and I will be full of catalyst energy. And that's not what I want to do with my collaborator. Because I know that. I know this about myself. The presence of that heat shows up and it just does the work. And that's the beauty of when we look at power and presence together, it just becomes the essence of who you are. So write those down. And I want to just pull out a couple things here. One is, remember, this is the heart line. And this archetype has that heart, that garnet on her heart, and her heart is open. So that's important. Number 2, the lightning bolt. It's a very embodied thing. You cannot truly, you cannot, should not embody the catalyst if you are not physically in your body, because then it's just all up in the head. And that's where a lot of this shenanigans that we see happening all over the place, especially, or things come out sideways, is because we're not embodied. And so being embodied is a really important part of it, as is being intentional, like I've talked about, like really being intentional when you catalyze and when you don't. And also making sure that when and if you do choose to catalyze yourself and or others and or even inside of a system, that you are doing it with integrity and not with righteousness. The last two things I want to say here before we take a breath and take a beat and then dive into self-catalyzing is when that's where your come from is, it doesn't harm. The catalyst, it might sting. When I do a 360 for somebody, when I'm doing leadership coaching, I do a very deep dive and I get really into the roots, and I am pulling out where is the interference for this person individually and where is the interference within the system. And it's very honest. And there are lightning bolts. Like I know which ones are going to be little lightning strikes. So it stings, but it's also very direct. Like there's a directness to it that's focused and intentional. So it's not coming out sideways, or it's not like it's like you're singeing somebody because you're not being direct. So it has a warmth to it. It can have a heat to it. It just doesn't harm. A lot of it is because it's like you need to be able to come without imposing your own projection or judging the other person. And I would say this is true for the advocate and that sort of loving truth, and also the ability to catalyze. Judgment and righteousness can be smelled in the air, and it might not directly like kill somebody, but it will singe and can harm. So it's really important to be centered and clear in yourself. Really important. So we're almost halfway through here. And so what I do want is just stop and pause. I'm not sharing a lot of like what's happening right now in the world kind of with me or whatever, because I'm trying to make these archetypes series a little bit of a evergreen, as I like to call them. And I want to just take a breath and take a beat before we go into the catalyzing self, catalyzing others, and catalyzing the system, is that there is to support you in being able to stay centered and clear in yourself, which is no small feat currently and probably won't be for a while. I did upgrade the daily flow kit that has the daily morning flow and a daily centering practice, how to create a daily centering practice where you're centering on all four levels, body, mind, heart, and spirit, before you interact, so that you don't get hacked and then go into your world reacting because you've been hacked by the outside world. So if you go to dailyflowkit.com, that will it's free. It's my gift to you. And so there's videos and a handbook and everything. So that's number one. And then number two, which is time sensitive, but you'll be able to see this other places. There are some new things coming up. I have been in the last 6 weeks just doing a deep rejuvenation for myself. After spending a lot of energy and dealing with a lot of the catalysts of this world, I kind of over catalyzed and advocated, and I needed to take some deeper time for myself. So more on that in a different podcast. But I just wanted to let you know there are some things I'm catalyzing, and so there also will be some new things happening. So do make sure that we're connected on my email list, which is. You can get to from my website, ChristinaRilo.com. And so, or just stay here on the podcast feed, and I'll be sharing with you all as I'm ready to share in the next couple of weeks. All right. Get that daily flow kit. Enjoy it. Okay. Let's turn the dial over to catalyzing yourself. So this is what it looks like when you are really embracing and embodying your power as a catalyst in your own life. So I'm going to name a couple things, and then we'll kind of tune in and how you can use this for yourself. So one is kind of see if these ring true, like, oh yeah, I do that, or like, kind of do that sometimes, kind of don't do that sometimes, and then, or like, oh yeah, I am like, don't do that at all. So number one, you meet the challenges that arise in your life in all places, whether that's career or relationship or money or health or home. I always say there's like 7 main catalysts that show up. No one gets off planet Earth without catalysts. And for some of us, it's our career. For some, it's money. For some, it's relationships like intimate partnerships, or it's relationships with same gender, or it's with our parents or with our kids. Others, it's health. Others, it's home. There's, like 2 handfuls, or like 2, between 7 to 10. So just know that that's just part of the human experience. But when they happen to you, do you embrace them as an invitation from life or the universe? I'm preferring life these days, to elevate you into a greater level of expression, embodiment, and evolution, even when it's hard, which it often is. So it's not just about reframing it, but it is about recontextualizing it to understanding as this is happening as like, oh, I'm in a catalyst and I am being catalyzed. So instead of being on what's called the dreaded drama triangle, which is a brilliant way to understand how we get caught in our lives and in relationships and in systems that keep us stuck in drama and feeling disempowered. It was created in the late 1960s by I think he was a psychoanalyst or psychologist. And it basically is, the triangle has 3 points. There's victim, that's point 1. There's another point, which is savior, hero. That's a point 2. And then 3 is perpetrator, dominator, kind of energy. And so when we have a catalyst happening in our lives, it's really easy to fall into victim. Or if you really don't like being victim, like that's like just not part of your personality, you'll stay there for a second, and then you'll move into dominator or perpetrator, sometimes to yourself, sometimes to the situation, like I'm going to power through this, like I'm not letting this happen to me. Or you will reframe it so fast that you don't even let yourself be with the feelings of it, and then you just bypass it emotionally and spiritually. And then there's this other triangle that was created in, I think, the late 80s, early 90s by a leadership coach who just passed away in 2025. In fact, he lived on Bainbridge Island. I just found out where I used to live. And it's called the empowerment triangle. And so victim goes to creator. And perpetrator, dominator goes to challenger or catalyst, which is basically the advocate and the catalyst. And then savior, hero, helper goes to coach. So we can do this for ourselves. So like even when a catalyst is happening, sometimes you'll dominate yourself, perpetrate yourself, like you should be better. Why did you do this? Like that judgment comes out of ourselves. So I'm loving these triangles right now. And you can just Google them. It's called the dreaded drama triangle, or not Google them, but actually search for them on whatever search engine you use. I'm currently have moved off of the Google and have decided that not everything should be Googleable. No, I just believe that if a free market society, we should have options. And so when I see monopolies I'm just a big no. So I found a new CEO. It's not I found a new search engine. It's not new. It's been around for a long time, but DuckDuckGo. I call it DuckDuckGo. I think it's just DuckGo. So I'm using that. So DuckDuckGo it, Safari it, Chrome it, Facebook it, whatever you do. But just look up the drama triangle and the empowerment triangle. It's brilliant, and I think could help you a lot. So when you have this catalyst, and just think of it, is there something that is hard and challenging right now, or is stretching you in a way that doesn't feel hard, that doesn't feel super comfortable? And again, it could be the kind that's like totally kicking your ass and like can someone like please, like mercy, I can't handle it, to something that's like feels invigorating, but it's also could be a little scary, or it could bring up self-doubt, or it could bring up anxiety. Like those are all, they're just catalysts. And to be able to name them helps you become empowered to actually work with them. So kind of just thinking about that. How do you do that already? And where might you want to amp that up? There's also a really interesting word that I really love a lot in the more mystical wisdom traditions, which is called initiation. And initiation means that you're basically, through life, you are being brought to the potential to, as John O'Donohue said, go beyond yourself. Go beyond who you know yourself to be, to become, and from the phoenix perspective, to elevate into the next evolution of yourself. Initiation is something that it's like if you've ever think of like a sword and how a sword has to be tempered, like we have to be tempered. So these things happen to us that are initiations, and how we show up in them tempers us and also determines whether we continue to evolve and expand and come back more and more to our true center and our pure hearts and that sense of empowerment and oneness and being in co-creation, or if we kind of fall down the ladder and go deeper into our fear and our constraint and we contract. And so being able to say, I often found it like being able to say, oh, I'm in an initiation right now. And initiations aren't like they're not quite like a lightning bolt. They're something that happens over time. And when you can say, like I'm just thinking of something very mundane, a good friend of mine's son is getting married, and how the whole thing has happened has been very hard for the system and just very challenging on so many levels. And there's a lot of different ways that could have went, but she has decided to embrace it as an initiation to become even like more awake and aware in her relationships and kind of clean out whatever relational stuff is still in there that might be coming from a deeper shadow place or a wound or whatever, to clean it out. So she's meeting this catalyst that's happening that isn't the way she would have envisioned this all happening, with her son being married and getting married and all of this in lots of ways that are not super respectful and et cetera, in a way that's like, okay, this is an initiation. And then what's the support do I need? So she's getting support within that at multiple different levels, but then she can say, oh, I'm in an initiation, versus like, oh my God, this is happening to me, which there was plenty of like the, oh my God, that was like that hot heat. But then instead of just staying in the hot heat of it, which the male parent in this case is still really much in the hot heat of the suffering, she is in the empowered initiation of, all right, this is happening. I'm accepting what is. And I'm going to use this catalyst for the good of me and the good of our family system, and then release control, but be at choice. And so that piece, like what I just gave you, is like release control, but remember and embrace that you're at choice. And that's this other piece of like whatever it is that's catalyzing you, whether it's the warming good stuff that's like feeling good but stretchy or bringing you to tears a couple times, or it's like, holy gamoly, like this is hard. Like some stuff is really hard. I have friends whose spouses have been diagnosed with terminal diseases, right? That's really hard stuff, brutal things that can happen. And it's not about bypassing it. It's about embracing that this is an initiatory thing, and how and who do I want to be as I walk through it. And so that's where we embrace life as a teacher. And that struggle is going to happen. But instead of letting that struggle take you down or swirl you up, coming to it from a place of curiosity and humanity and compassion and listening to find the flow. That's how we, kind of think of it. If like we're walking through like a path and there's all these catalysts on the path, we're walking gingerly and gently, but we're walking directly and we keep moving. And then we might pause for a moment and then the next one comes and then the next one comes. So where in your life is this catalyst already happening? So I'm going to kind of turn this towards you. Or do you know a catalyst is coming? Because here's the other part about really embracing your power as a catalyst for yourself, is that it also means that you consciously choose to catalyze yourself versus waiting to be hit by a universal 2x4. You probably have had a 2x4. Have you had a 2x4? I had a Mack truck run over me and then rerun back over, not literally, but metaphorically. And I'm like, that's the last time I'm ever having a Mack truck. And that was 20 years ago. And that doesn't mean that things didn't happen. I mean, my partner almost died of a stroke. Like literally he had a stroke and they came and picked him up and we go to the hospital. He's unconscious. And the doctor says to me, if it's a stroke, and we give him this medicine, he will live because it will break the stroke up. But if it's an aneurysm, he will die. Which one are you going to do? That was a catalytic moment that I knew was an initiation in the moment, and took a breath and took a beat and said, I need to call someone who can actually give me some support. But in that moment, I also knew the initiation was, do I trust that even if Noah dies, that love won't die? And I made that decision in that moment that yes. Now, I was really fortunate that we gave him the drug. It broke up the clot. My friend answered the phone. She's not really my friend, but she's an acquaintance. So that was another like initiation. Am I going to reach out for someone who I have a complicated relationship to in this moment to ask for help? And so many things happened in that initiation that went on for years. Noah's fine, by the way, y'all. He's totally fine, fully recovered. Thank you, acupuncture. And traditional Chinese medicine, which was so helpful in that for him to truly heal, and to allopathic medicine for having the drug. Of lots of receiving, I had to open up and let myself be supported. So initiations can be like that. It's like they can be in a way that are making you have to open your heart up. And so, or they might be calling you to make a change, and and maybe it's a change that feels great, and maybe it's a change that feels scary as hell. And maybe this is happening for you right now. Maybe it's happening for somebody that depending on how long you've been on this journey, you're like, yeah, I got catalyst down. I mean, no one really has it down because you never want to say that about catalyst, but you do know, you move towards the initiation, you move towards the catalyst. You don't wait to get bowled over by it. Whether that's health or money or a relationship, you can feel the twiggly dangler in. You address it and you are in relationship to it. And so just taking a moment to feel into where does this catalyst energy. I'll also say one last piece. I did a whole other podcast on this, but you can also use the catalyst energy to help you release old parts of yourself, old roles, old responsibilities, things that don't serve you anymore, that you don't want to take forward, like the snake who sheds her skin. We do this every year during the moon of Catalyze, which is like the 9th moon of the year. It's something we do every year. So we make sure that and when I do these next phase on purpose processes with people, there's always a shedding. What roles am I shedding? So it could be that, for you of, maybe your kids already, finished college and it's shedding that role of primary caretaker. Doesn't mean you're shedding your role as mother or father, but you're no longer responsible to make sure that, all their basic needs are met. So it's just being able to do that consciously is also really empowering and lovely. So where is that happening in your life? Take a minute here with yourself. and just name. Like, just name that this is a catalyst is happening, or there's a catalyst coming, or there's a catalyst calling you. And take a moment to just feel into the courage that you have innately in you, the compassion. What would it be like to move through this with courage and compassion? What would it be like to give yourself the space to have your human self emotions and to feel whatever's in there? Because most catalysts are going to bring up some kind of fear, even if you want them to happen. I've been working on just a little, I'll share one of mine. I'm in the process of working on this Wiser project that I've been working on since 2019 or even before, about bringing the wisdom and equipping and empowering and educating our young girls and our young adults with what they need to be able to be discerning, wise, intuitive beings on this planet, and not have to wait till they're 40 or 30 or 60 to find that wisdom. And I am intending to do that with this collective of people that are working with me in a way that we're not rerunning the nonprofit model of, to beg for money, and the people that are in the nonprofit don't get paid very well. And instead we're taking a stand that teachers should be paid well. They should be paid as well as coders. And people who do work in the tech world, teachers should be paid as much as people in the tech world, because they're raising the next generation, and educators. And so we're trying to, we're finding our way. We're in this co-creation. And I just had a little superwoman sob, because I'm like, I don't know how to do this, and I just had to have my human self let her say, I don't know, what we're trying to do is, it's not been done, but I don't know the right path. I don't know how this is going to unfold. I don't know exactly how to create this organization. So the people that design and develop and deliver this curriculum and share it with other organizations are paid really well, and for the value they bring. So I don't know. And I just had a little inadequacy superwoman sob, which is a very uncomfortable feeling for me to have, because inadequacy is not something that I feel a lot, but I let myself feel it so that I could get to what's on the other side of inadequacy, is resourcefulness. And then I could start to feel all the people around me and all the things that are happening, and take the pressure off of trying to have to know something before I can know it. And so you can even think about that in terms of if sometimes it's just a catalyst is stepping into the unknown in a place you don't know how to do something, because you're following your calling. So if you create space for that human self, what would that be like for you? And then what is the space that you need held for you, so that you can have that emotion, or what are the practices that are going to hold you through this catalyst that you might need? Sometimes when we're going through catalysts, we have to up our practices. I've returned to my yoga bookends on Thursday night and on Sunday evening, because I need those. And I deepened my prayer and my meditation practice. Right now I'm doing a 54-day practice that is so helping me feel the resources, a lot of them invisible, that I have all around me, because I have to feel held and guided as I go through this time of expansion for myself in the work in the world that I'm here to bring forth to help create this life-sustaining world and help support those generations to come, that both the emerging and established leaders. So, be aware of what those practices are for you. And let's also just take a little stretch here, because that was a lot. And just take a breath before we turn over here to the other two parts on catalyzing with others and catalyzing the system. And just take a moment, close your eyes, and take a deep breath into your body and your heart and your mind and your spirit. And feel yourself root down into this beautiful earth. imagine yourself like a tree, and you're just grounding deep in being held like a beautiful tree. And then feel the energy come up your trunk, all the way to the top of your head, where you're like rising up. And even like you could take your arms, or you could just stretch them out like tree branches. You're just rising up to reach the light. So that whole vertical channel of you, we call it root down, to rise up. And then take another breath and just lean back in whatever you're sitting in, and or just relax your shoulders. Feeling yourself held by all the people around you that you know and love, but also so many beautiful beings of light and wisdom who are here through the way we live and lead and love, creating a different reality than we see on the mainstream news channels. It's happening. Just like in Harry Potter, the magic didn't die. Voldemort made it really gray for a long time in The Prisoners of Azkaban. But in the end, once the Horcruxes were found and other things happened, the magic prevailed. And so it's still alive, well and alive within all of us. And then just taking a deep breath into your heart. And just asking yourself, whatever catalyst it is that you're finding yourself in right now, what do you need to receive that will really support you to feel held and guided forward? And so you can release control and feel at choice. What do you need to receive? And go ahead and say that out loud. So this is a practice that I do every morning. It's called root down to rise up, relax back, and receive. So I encourage you to do it. Also check it out in the Daily Flow Kit, dailyflowkit.com. And it's a great practice overall to know every day what you need, but whatever just came to you. I heard conversating with other conscious humans. That is what keeps me centered. And this is the thing why I just slowed us down as we go to catalyzing with other people in the system, is that, love, the truth is that you do have within you what it is that you need to move through these times at all levels. And for whatever it is, especially the stuff that feels brutal and like it might tear you apart, I just want to send you a huge wave of grace and invite you to, as much as you can, use your breath to breathe through it. And whatever your cosmology is, I think grace is pretty agnostic, but whatever it is for you, for me, it is grace and I feel like she is feminine, so it does feel like a she, but whatever it is for you, that you can feel that hand on your back guiding you, and that we have these abilities, these intuitive sensibilities that have been poo-pooed and shoo-shooed and woo-wooed off the planet, because if we truly had these sensibilities, the shenanigans would just not be allowed. And we would, when we were in times of great stretch, we would just have all of the support around us that we needed to feel held. And so I want to invite you to, even if you're the kind of catalyst that feels wanted and good. I'm thinking of Noah right now as he's expanding in his career and working with couples and partnership and business. He started going to meditate again 3 days a week at a Sangha here in Asheville, because that's part of what he needs, and he has a mostly resisting a relationship with meditation. So, but he knows that if he does it in community, he will do it. And so just knowing that needing support and having support, being in connection is part of it, and you're not alone in this. And if you feel alone, see if you can get have the sob, and if you can be quiet after the sob, that's where the wisdom will always speak to you. And this I know. All right, my dears, let's talk about catalyzing with others in relationships and then catalyzing the system. These episodes seem to be about an hour and 20, so that's what we're going to do. And let's see how this kind of comes out. Okay, so let's talk about other people. So these could be, you are, some people are paid to be catalysts. I'm paid to be a catalyst. I literally am a catalyst for the leaders and teams I work with. I don't throw lightning bolts at them. Also, sometimes they do ask me, for them. But I've had to learn as a catalyst for in those situations. I don't catalyze people that I don't pay me to do that I don't have that relationship with, and I have to be very careful in my personal relationships that I don't just bring that energy kind of roaring into that. And so sometimes you will be in a relationship and you can tell the relationship needs a catalyst. Sometimes you can tell that person needs a catalyst. And this can happen personally or professionally. So think of somebody in your life where you could see how they're struggling or they're stuck. Say you've wanted to help. There's nothing wrong with helping. But if we show up as the savior or the hero, or, so many of my female clients have struggled with, truthfully, with their partners not kind of manifesting or being emotionally available, and they're just tired of, trying to hold space for them and help them, because then they get caught in the drama triangle, and or even, then. And so it's like, it could be a person like that where it's like you keep coming around to the same thing and nothing is changing. And or it could be something that's happening in a relationship with someone on your team or someone personally, where the way that they're acting or responding, you can tell they're coming from their ego and they're either blind to something or they don't really want to deal with it. And you want to catalyze it. You just want to throw that lightning bolt down and catalyze their ass. You really want to do it, right? Don't do that. So there's lots of different ways that could happen. So I'm going to give you a tool here that I use often, because I do find myself often in those situations where people, sometimes they subconsciously want me to catalyze them. They won't own it. But then I end up being the persecutor or the dominator, and then they feel like the victim, versus it coming from that challenger, catalyst, coach, co-creator perspective. And I've actually finished relationships on my team with people who need to be catalyzed, want to be catalyzed, but I'm like, not my job to catalyze that person. And so we finish our working relationship and they go work that out with someone else, because I'm clear I don't want to be the person they're working it out with. And or with Noah, there were things that, for example, that he would just keep coming back around to, and he needed to go find other people. Or his Mankind Project community actually been a huge help in catalyzing him, versus me being the one, which catalyzing your partner over and over and over again is not a good thing for a relationship. So here is the tool. So if you find yourself either professionally or personally in a situation where you think this person needs to be catalyzed, or they're asking you to catalyze them consciously or unconsciously, ask yourself this question: is this mine to facilitate, to initiate, or elevate? Is this mine to facilitate, initiate, or elevate? So facilitate means you're actually facilitating, right? You're helping that catalyst happen, and taking someone through a process. Initiate it is, you're throwing down a light, like a little lightning bolt, and illuminating it, sparking it into action, and or elevate, which is your part to actually take action to move this dynamic off of the dreaded drama triangle into something else that is more empowering and more co-creative. If the answer is no, it is not your job to facilitate it. It's not your job to initiate it. it's not your job to elevate it, then we haven't done this archetype yet, but it will be the next one that we do. But I think you'll kind of get the gist of it. Is it's called the coherency creator. If your answer is not, if you're not supposed to facilitate, initiate, or elevate it, your job is to create coherency or create space versus catalyzing them. So create coherency means, say you're in a situation with a person and it's personal. I'm thinking like this happened with me and a former business partner, and we were just stuck on the dreaded drama triangle, and I could see her ego as clear as day. I'm not sure she could see mine. Mine was activated, but once I got my ego and I understood what was happening, I could see more clearly, as one does. And I just knew it wasn't my job to catalyze her. That wasn't going to go well if I tried to do that, if I called her out on that situation. And so my job was to basically create coherency. I'm like, how can I bring more peace and coherency and harmony to this situation? And when I asked that question, how could I create coherency? And we'll talk more about this in the next archetype, but you can just even ask that now. And you're really in inquiry about that, you'll receive wisdom on how to do that. Like, what is your part to do that? And then what's the space that's actually needed? How can you create space versus catalyze them? So, for example, with this, like I had a person on my team a couple of years ago that I just could tell she wanted something to be catalyzed, and I was like, not doing it. I'm not going to do it. But I didn't want to just cut her off. And so I just created the space for her to gently decide to complete with me and me to complete with her, and to let her lead that process, because I didn't have to make it happen right now. And so it happened gently and without leaving residue. And so being able to lead into creating coherency or creating space, and we've done the space holder, right? So that is one of the archetypes you can also lead into. And sometimes it's just a timing, it's a timing issue. So if the answer is yes, though, is this mine to facilitate, initiate, or elevate, then yeah, you want to walk through it with them, not throw the lightning bolt at them or a kind of WTF, what is wrong with you? And this is where compassion comes in, right? The gentle strength. It's where the advocate comes in. The advocate, once you know that your role is to offer a catalyst, it's great to lean into the advocate and the space holder and the intuitive illuminator. I feel like that's when these archetypes, those four main ones, work together the best, because then your intuitive illuminator will tell you the best way to do that. Your space holder is not going to be in a rush, and it's going to create that spaciousness. Your advocate's going to know that you're doing this out of love for this person. So whatever action you take will be received. I can't tell you what that other person's going to do or not do, but from what you put into the field, you'll have done your best to be clean and clear with it. And so oftentimes the catalyst does require some space, and that's okay. So I just encourage you to know your own triggers, know when you are triggered in relationship, know when you're wanting to force your own will or you're also running away from it, and then making that inquiry, okay, this is the situation or this is the person, is this mine to facilitate, initiate, or elevate? And if it is, great. Walk with it through them and try to do your best to stay in the non-judgment zone. And if you need times to be judgmental, do it, and have it, just not with that person. And then if it's not in yours, then find a different role that will work better. And maybe sometimes even it can be bringing in other things that they can do that will be the catalyst that isn't you. All right. And if you are a person who professionally does catalyze people, I'll share with you what Noah said to me, Christina Rilo. You are no longer available for catalyzing people who are not paying you in a professional relationship to do so. And that was like gold to me, because I would find that friends and other people would unconsciously choose me as their catalyst and then get really mad at me. And that happened a couple times, and it was no fun. And so it helps me also know with my friends that to ask. Sometimes I even ask, would you like me to catalyze this right now for you? And they've said yes. And then they did not want to hear it. And it took the friendship sideways. So for any of you that this is one of your main archetypes, just be double aware of all of that. All right, let us move into the last part here in catalyzing the system. Okay, my fellow conscious co-creators and catalyzers. I'm so excited to be flying through the skies with you all with these beautiful lightning bolts. Catalyzing the system. Oh my. I love this one so much because the between the catalyst, the advocate, the space holder, like all of these archetypes, it's going to save you so much energy. Catalyst does not waste energy. She's not flying around, lightning bolt here and a lightning bolt there, lightning bolts everywhere, dot. Like she conserves her energy for where she can, as I like to say in one of my leadership principles, is do less, receive more, achieve a greater impact. She's not screaming into the void. She is not having 8,000 different things that she's on a rage about. She's clear about her part, and she's clear about what is her part to do and give voice to and be a leader in. She's clear in what her part is to live and just do silently or softly or in simple shares. And she's also clear what her job is and what her part is just through her presence and how she loves and what she loves. And so we all have a part, you and me and every person on this planet, if we choose to truly embrace our leadership, which, as you've heard me say a gazillion times, leadership is not a position of authority that is given to somebody, although you may have a position of authority and power. True leadership, genuine leadership, is choosing to use your voice, your choices, and your presence to influence the world around you, the people around you, and to shape a more sustaining, just world in all the ways that we can actually influence, which is way more than we often know. And so when you think about and consider, like, how have you catalyzed systems, and think of systems can be family systems, they can be team systems, they can be community systems, they can be places, they can be the things that you've silently or not silently done to shift things in really any way that is happening outside of just you or somebody else. So I think of everything from the acts of harmonic defiance that I talk about in Overwhelmed and Over It. One of them specifically where a mother tells her daughter she has to wear a helmet playing lacrosse if she wants to play, even though she doesn't have to do that to play at the league. And then parents came up to her afterwards and said, "Oh, I wish I could get my daughter to wear a helmet." And she's like, "Well, you are their parent." So in that moment, she's catalyzing people to think differently, right? So sometimes we're just catalyzing by sharing something and making something, illuminating something. Think of lightning bolts. They can illuminate. They can liberate. They can even illuminate in order to educate. So you probably have done this at work all of the time. I'm thinking of different friends of mine who have been system disruptors from the inside out without people even knowing that's necessarily what they were doing. But they have been able to use their positions of power to catalyze something that took people from victim to something that was happening externally to actually creating something differently within the system. And it could be as simple as I'm thinking of one of my former leadership coaching clients and team coaching clients that has become a friend. And she ran a legal team for a tech company. And they have to review contracts and they have to do stuff. Reviewing contracts, it takes work to do that. But in that corporate meeting culture, they never had time to be able to do that. So she just declared that they were going to, on Thursdays, they would not be available for meetings between whatever it was, 10 and 2 or 10 and 3, unless it was an emergency. And the system just moved around it. That was a catalyst. And so there's like these little, they don't have to be huge things. They can be small things, acts of harmonic defiance. But it can also be, like for me with the Wiser project, that is my response to, I don't like what I'm seeing in the system about how we ill-equipped we are and how we want, just all of the things. I could go on for a long time. I won't. But the Wiser project is me using my catalyst along with all the other archetypes to say, I'm not waiting around for someone to invite me to decide that I'm going to develop a curriculum that can educate and equip young girls and young adults to have the tools that they need to be able to have discernment and make good choices and aligned choices and trust themselves and know themselves. We're going to do it. That is the catalyst and the advocate working together. So, or the same thing in, your family system. You can be a catalyst just by doing things differently, saying yes to things or saying no to things. And it doesn't have to be a big F you. You're just like, yeah, no, that doesn't work for me. We're going to do it this way. That's a catalyst, but you're doing it from the place of not, F you. You're doing it from the place of that doesn't work for me. And it's okay for you to do you, and I'm going to do me. So there are these harmonic defiance moments. So just taking a moment and think about the systems that you're in, and where are you already showing up as a catalyst? Where might you be wasting some of that catalyst energy that is really wasting your chi? I mean, that's what we talk about. The last section of Overwhelmed and Over It is liberating your power. And one of the pieces is stop wasting your chi on people that don't want to hear it, can't receive it. Sometimes I see so much chi wasting just because I want to, people want to be seen and heard, and the crazy amount of content creation that's going on out there is such a waste of energy and not catalyzing the system in the way that we could if we just slowed down and took a breath and took a beat. Because catalyzing the system requires us to think, requires all parts of our spectrums of intelligence, our intuition, our instincts, our intuition, our intellect, our instincts, and then insight from life, from the universe, from the divine. And so what are the systems that you are either part of that you do want to catalyze, you want to use your catalytic leadership ability no matter what position you're in? And maybe write those down and these systems matter. It kind of goes with the advocate, right? It's like, what is on my thread to lead, and where am I just doing this by how I live and I make my choices? And then bring that together with the catalyst. And then what are some actual actions you might want to take that feel life-sustaining, that feel life-giving, that add to your life force versus draining your well? If we all do that, we just focus on our part and we do it with intention. And remembering, I think I might have shared this with you, this will be my closing thought. One of the co-creation equations that we're really working this year is intention plus commitment plus engagement equals incremental progress, and incremental progress equals success. Say this one more time so you can write this down. We're working I'm just loving this equation so much. Intention plus commitment plus engagement equals incremental progress. And incremental progress equals success. And apply that to the ways that you're showing up as a change agent, change maker, a heart warrior, a Shambhala warrior, a co-creator in any system, family, team, organization, community, the bigger world, the causes that matter. And choose your catalyst wisely. I have some new ones that are becoming, that are creations, that are definitely use all the archetypes, and I've been thinking about for 3 years. Sometimes we might wait for like 3 years to initiate something or catalyze something into action, and that's okay. I mean, that is co-creation, where you're really tuning into, is this ready to be initiated yet? Is this ready to be catalyzed? And this is where the catalyst and the creatrix work together. So you're kind of starting to see, I hope, how they're connected to each other in these different ways, and why we want the whole pantheon here to support us. So I'm going to end us today with just a short 5-10-line poem here that I wrote a decade ago, that's connected to working with energy of catalyze to support ourselves, to expand and evolve. And that's what we're about here, right? Conscious evolution. So wherever this finds you, my dear, I'm just sending much love to you. And here's some words to keep some courage and compassion flying through you. Dare to move out of what is comfortable into what is calling your heart and soul to express. Dare to liberate yourself from what binds you, to be free to fully fly and give all you came to live. Dare to catalyze yourself instead of waiting for someone else or the universe to do it for you. Dare to dance with the earth and burn things not out of impatience, but of purpose and love. Meet the challenges of life with your primal force, fierce grace embodied, dancing through you. Do not be afraid of the fire. Ground and focus the fire to set yourself, your desires, free. Sometimes we need to release what we've been good at so we can step into our greatness. All right, my love, sending you much love. Thanks for being here, and look forward to next time. Much love.